It is Tuesday, August 19th. President Trump assuring Americans this morning the security guarantees for Ukraine involve only European troops. No American troops will be on the ground should a peace deal be signed. Also revealing this morning for the first time his ultimate motive, President Trump's ultimate motive in seeking peace. And it's got nothing to do with foreign policy or political promises. We'll show you that. And the new Texas congressional map is ready. The lines have been drawn. We have a copy of it. Likewise, California's new map is a shocker. We'll show you and more stories as well from around the country.
What kind of assurances do you feel like you have that going forward and, past this Trump administration, it won't be American boots on the ground defending that border?
Well, you have my assurance, I'm president, and I'm just trying to stop people from being killed, Charlie. Look, they're losing from 5,000 to 7,000 people a week.
Volodymyr Zelensky and the big EU powers, all of whom falling in line and publicly agreeing, cutting a deal with Putin is the best and really, at this point, the only way to end this war. The meeting yesterday showing the world who's really in charge here. The big EU powers waiting patiently outside the Oval Office, outside the principal's office. Then these photos from inside the meeting, the power dynamic crystal clear. At the moment, the deal terms include ceding some of the land that Russia holds, possibly a land swap, Russia obtaining recognition of these new land borders, and in response for doing that, Russia will stop the war, free the Ukrainian POWs, and the big one, agree to security guarantees, whereby Europe and the U.S. provide Ukraine Article 5-like security guarantees, similar to what they'd receive, not exactly, but similar if they were actually in NATO. This would include European forces stationed inside Ukraine along the new Ukraine-Russia border. This is something, by the way, that should just be noted, nobody thought Putin would ever agree to. This has been his red line since day one, that NATO soldiers cannot be on his doorstep. The media at first, for a quick minute, honestly reporting on this. Watch.
He seems to be allowing this coalition of the willing to involve non-Article 5 rules of engagement by that the U.S. is going to have a role to play. This is something that Putin was against. He seems to be softening on that. And this is a big thing for Zelensky, is to have something rock solid. So maybe there's some progress there as we leave this.
The events at the White House today, and I got some good detail and nuance about where everyone's heads are at. And I'll just read you my notes from this. I'm told there's no expectation that today is going to wrap up with a date on the calendar for a trilateral summit. Today, though, would be a success if Zelensky had a realistic discussion about territorial concessions. No one here expects Zelensky to take Putin's first version of the map back to his country, but Zelensky does need to start talking about what he can let go of and what is critical to keep. And they say getting clarity on security guarantees and what that looks like will make it easier for Zelensky to sell that back home.
Then, getting the memo apparently, don't give Trump a win, any kind of a win, characterizing this as Trump surrendering to Vladimir Putin.
The fact that he feels he's got to check in with Putin right away, and that still feels like Trump needs Putin's approval in a way that's got to be very disturbing to Zelensky sitting there. But of course, Zelensky was a good actor. He's playing it cool. He's not biting on any of the questions he got. And
the truth, though, this conflict was always going to end in some type of a deal. The question is, do you want to wait until Russia continues advancing, obtaining more and more of Ukraine? It's a war of attrition, a long, bloody, deadly slog with apparently 5,000 to 7,000 deaths a week. Why continue it when in a year Ukraine will likely be in a worse position than they are today? Trump breaking the ice, the fever dream of Ukraine winning this war, and revealing his true motivation for doing this, his North Star, not foreign policy, strategy, or fulfilling a campaign promise. No, he says he just wants it to end. If he can save 7,000 people a week from being killed. That's pretty good. And maybe, he says, maybe that'll count for something with the man upstairs. Watch.
Just want to end it. I want to end it. You know, we're not losing American lives. We're not losing American soldiers. We're losing Russian and Ukrainian, mostly soldiers. Some people, as missiles hit wrong spots or get lobbed into cities like Kiev and towns. But, you know, if I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's a pretty... I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India.
Meanwhile, setting the Democrats a blast this morning when he unveiled his new 911 effort to end mail-in voting immediately, to end it before the 2026 midterm elections. Writing on Truth Social this morning, I am going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We are now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. All others gave it up because of the massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 2026 midterm elections. Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots voting, and everybody, in particular the Dems, know this. I and the Republican Party will fight like hell to bring honesty and integrity back to our elections. The mail-in ballot hoax using voting machines that are a complete and total disaster must end now. Democrats obviously losing their minds over this, rolling out their number one election attorney, the same man who used to be a partner at Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie should sound familiar. It's the law firm that Trump just sued and beat. They capitulated to Trump. Mark Elias saying if Trump did this, it could spell the end for the Democrat Party. That this is a 5-alarm fire and should be taken deadly serious by every Democrat. Watch.
So Donald Trump is telling us that. He is not hiding the ball. He's not like pretending to be doing something else. That is what he is saying. And it is about damn time that the institutions of this country, the legacy media, first and foremost among them, wakes the fuck up and starts to report and say what Donald Trump himself is saying. I mean, the goddamn Washington Post, and I'm sorry for swearing. I'm sorry for taking the Lord's name in vain, but their headline after Donald Trump's executive order is, and I quote, Trump previews executive order on voting. I'm sorry, what? You think what Brian and I are talking about here is Trump previewing an executive order on voting? It's as if, like, you know, they are reporting on, you know, Barack Obama or Joe Biden, you know, announcing, you know, Bald Eagle Month, right? I mean, yeah. This is not an executive order on voting, and he's not previewing it. He is saying he is going to lead a movement among Republican states to do away with a method of voting that people rely on. He's going to issue an executive order that he does not have the power to do. He's going to expect states to act as his agent in the counting and tabulation of voting.
Jennifer Griswold, Colorado's Secretary of State, saying Trump fighting to end mail-in voting is disenfranchising voters. Really? Really? The lady who tried to remove Trump's name from the ballot box last year, who did remove his name, stripped his right to run for president before being overruled. Maybe you're not the best person to lecture us on disenfranchisement, Jennifer. Watch.
If the president was able to successfully stop mail-in voting, would that benefit one party over the other in your state?
To make it very clear, he will not be successful. I have beat him over and over and over as he has attempted in 2020 to roll back mail ballots. But mail ballots do not help one party over another. That's what all the data shows. It just helps voters vote in a secure and accessible way. This isn't about security. This is about, again, a weak president grasping at straws, trying to hold on to power. He has escalated his attacks on our elections from weaponizing the DOJ to trying to keep MAGA control of Congress through corrupt redistricting. We need to fight back. I will do everything in my power to stop them, but your viewers really need to get involved too. Make their voices heard and make it clear that this corrupt power grab will not succeed, and Americans will reject what's happening in this nation right now.
Going on to say this method of voting, mail-in voting, is the method that Dems disproportionately rely on versus Republicans. I wonder why that is.
First, Mark, I guess I'm wondering, could you give us kind of an alarm scale for you on what you're seeing out of the White House today on mail-in ballots?
Look, I think it's very alarming. I think, anytime the president of the United States says that he is going to shut down the predominant method of voting in, a quarter of the states, a method of voting that Democrats disproportionately rely on versus Republicans.
The 2026 midterms now only a year out. In fact, some of the midterm elections start even earlier, as early as April. If I'm not mistaken, the majority obviously is in November. Both sides of the aisle fighting like hell right now to gain competitive advantage. Texas finalizing their newly drawn congressional maps, which we have a copy of. What do you notice on this map? Only 5 tiny specks of blue, which shows you just how small an area geographically support the Democratic Party. These are the dense areas, obviously, like the city centers, but it seems more fair this way, if you ask me. If Dems had their choice in Texas, what would they do? They draw the lines far outside of these tiny urban centers, these geographical centers, to erase more Republican districts. This new map targets 5 seats that the Dems currently hold, whereas in California, Gavin Newsom, he plans to suspend their state constitution, essentially, temporarily, he says, to gerrymander away 12 Republican districts. California can only do gerrymandering, can only redraw their lines, their congressional lines, once a decade, right after each U.S. census. What he has to do is temporarily suspend the state constitution to be able to do that. It's in the Constitution that they can only do it once every 10 years. Congressman Kevin Kiley from California warning his state that Newsom's planning to spend $250 million, taxpayer dollars, to confuse Californians into doing something they overwhelmingly oppose. He says that he has a plan, though, to stop Newsom's scheme in its tracks and spare your tax dollars. Watch this.
Congress gets back in 2 weeks. I'm going to be using every possible measure that I can to get the bill to the floor for a vote. I mean, looking at my state of California, I'm extremely concerned for what I consider to be a threat to democracy. Our voters spoke very clearly when they set up an independent citizens commission to do redistricting, saying that politicians should not be in charge of drawing their own district lines. That's an inherent conflict of interest. And so we've had that commission in place for 15 years to draw district lines in a neutral, nonpartisan way. And so the idea that we're going to overturn the will of voters and return this power to politicians, I think it's very undemocratic. And indeed, a poll from Politico just 2 days ago showed that voters stand by their decision. 2/3 of Californians, overwhelmingly, Democrats, Republicans, independents, say they want to keep our independent citizens commission. They do not want to return to this era of partisan gerrymandering.
And Governor Newsom, for his part, says that he's putting the independent commission on hold because this is an emergency and you have to fight fire with fire, that this all started with Republicans in Texas. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say when you fight fire with fire, the whole world burns. I mean, this fails the test of kindergarten logic. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Will it work? I doubt it. What I believe is going to happen here is Texas will do their redistricting, California, they're going to do theirs, and then we're going to see other states follow suit, a race to the bottom, effectively. Indiana, Ohio, Florida, and others all racing to do this before next year's midterm elections. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.